breaking news this morning, a brand new CNN poll out just minutes ago on the eve of key off-year elections. With us now is CNN's Washington bureau chief and political director David Chalian. D-Chow, we got big numbers here on the president's approval rating, which I guess really is upside down at historic levels.
It is, John, and just consider this brand new CNN poll sort of a mood ring, if you will, as we head into Election Day tomorrow and that we're 1 year away from the midterms. That approval rating for the president, it is at a low point of his second term. 37% of Americans in our poll approve of the job Trump is doing. 63% disapprove. Take a look at his approval in this term over time. You see here, he was up hovering near 50% in his honeymoon after the inauguration, and it has been going down pretty steadily since, now at 37%. And also, just to give a sense here of how Americans are reacting to what he's doing, Trump has gone too far when it comes to using presidential power. 61% of our poll respondents say that is true. Trump has gone too far deporting undocumented immigrants. 57% say that is true. That's up from February. In fact, this question, Norah O'Donnell asked him on 60 Minutes last night. He said the exact opposite. He thinks it doesn't go far enough. The American people disagree, according to our new poll.
You said use this poll as a kind of mood ring. What is the ring telling you about the mood elsewhere?
Well, we sort of do that directional. How are things going in the country? Only 32% of Americans, John, say they're going well. 68% say going badly. What's driving that? Well, what is top of mind for Americans? The economy and cost of living, far and away. 47% of Americans say it's the most important issue facing the U.S. Then the state of democracy at 26%. Immigration, crime and safety a little lower down. So, given that the economy is so hugely important to Americans, what do they think of Trump's policies affecting the U.S. economy? 61% of Americans in this poll say that his policies have worsened the U.S. economic conditions. Only 27% say they have improved them.
Yeah, those were the numbers that really jumped out to me when you said have people telling you the economy is the most important thing, yet Donald Trump, the president, is not helping in that area. That gives you a sense of why his disapproval rating might be so high. So, Dave, we've got elections tomorrow. Let's not talk about those. Let's talk about the ones a year from tomorrow.
Yes, well, the elections tomorrow will be interesting, too. But you're right. We did take our first look a year out at that generic congressional ballot. Would you vote for the Democrat or the Republican in the battle for Congress? 47% say they would vote for the Democrat, 42% the Republican. This Democratic advantage, it is an advantage, but it's not nearly as large of an advantage Democrats had 8 years ago, coming to the end of Donald Trump's first year in office in 2017. That teed up their huge midterm victories in 2018. However, we do see that Democrats are far more motivated to vote than are Republicans. If you look here, those that tell us they're extremely motivated to vote in the midterms, Democrats and Democratic-leaning independents, 67% say they're extremely motivated. That compares to 46% of Republican and Republican-leaning independents. But, John, the Democratic Party brand is still a problem for the party. Look at this. Their favorable rating is at 29%. Now, the Republican favorable rating is not that much better, 33%, but still a tick better. 55% of Americans have an unfavorable view. A majority of Americans have an unfavorable view of the Democratic Party. Now, this is a lot of Democrats that are feeding that. They're sort of hating on their own party. We'll see if they succeed tomorrow night, if Donald Trump's numbers continue to go down, if that'll turn their fortunes around. But this does not look exactly like that 2018 huge midterm sweep. The Democrats still have some work to do to take advantage of Donald Trump's unpopularity with the American people.
Yeah, Democrats want to push that number higher, to be sure, in terms of the generic ballot. We'll get some new data points tomorrow when actual voters go to actual polls. We will be talking to you extensively, I'm sure, through the next 48 hours. David Chalian, great to see you. Thanks so much.
Joining me now in the group chat, Francesca Chambers, White House correspondent for USA Today, Stephen Collinson, CNN Politics senior reporter, and Sarah Fisher, CNN senior media analyst and senior media reporter at Axios. I want to start with his approval rating among independents throughout the years, throughout this year. So in mid-February, he was at 43%. Now he's down to 28%. That's a 15-point drop, and I always like to point out independents specifically.
The independents will be key as we head to the midterm elections.
But does the White House think they're key? Like, how do they look at the electorate, and where do they think are areas
the
of
president,
concern?
he thinks that he's doing well. I mean, he just said that himself. But with respect to his approval rating, it wasn't just the CNN poll. There was an ABC News Washington Post Ipsos poll that had roughly similar findings about his disapproval rating among 6 in 10 Americans too. And so when it isn't one poll, you can't say that that's an outlier. It's multiple polls at this point that are showing that. Obviously, they still have a year until those midterm elections, and so much can happen between now and then. But I think the generic ballot test over the weekend also was showing an edge for Democrats.
Yeah, unfortunately, Democrats don't have generic Democrats, right? Like, it's more complicated. So are they able to take advantage of this in elections as we look ahead this week?
Yeah, I think that's what the elections this week are about. They clearly have an opening. The president appears to be getting into the kind of territory that's generally very dangerous for a president looking forward to the midterm elections. But the question is, do Democrats have a message that can exploit that? Is the country willing to give them a hearing? You've seen in Virginia and New Jersey, the gubernatorial races, Democrats, they're seeking to address the affordability issues, which, of course, their nominee in the last election didn't really wasn't really able to answer. So they're starting.
And it's still an issue. We're looking
Right.
now. Voters believe the most important issue facing the country, economy, cost of living, is still first.
And those numbers are bad on that issue,
Yeah,
especially for the president.
49%.
So the problems that Democrats face is if you take a look at 2018, the numbers that they were pulling ahead were so much more drastic than they are now. So ahead of the 2018 midterm where Democrats swept, it was very obvious that they were going to sweep. They have a slight edge now, but it's nothing like what we saw 8 years ago.
Can I ask you, Sarah, what was interesting about this being an interview, 60 Minutes,
Yes.
CBS,
Yes.
under its new leadership, different anchor maybe than people are used to seeing at that time slot? The venue here matters.
A lot. So the context here is that CBS's parent company, Paramount, merged with a company called Skydance Media after they essentially made concessions to the Trump administration. He actually commented on that in the interview, saying that he liked the new leadership. They brought in a woman named Barry Weiss to be the editor-in-chief of CBS, and he was lauding and praising them. And the message that sends, Audie, is if you are a business person and you want to get a deal done, you want to get a transaction done, do it in a way that curries favor with the Trump administration, and you're more likely to get your deal blessed. It was very, very telling that Donald Trump addressed that head on the same network, by the way, that he sued for $20 billion.
Yeah, which he said, I didn't want to embarrass you by bringing that up. I think they had that in the off-air transcript.
I mean,
but it also showed he sensed he was sitting down with a friendly news organization.
Yes.
That was the tone that he seemed to convey. Not them, but him.
He thinks it's friendly because of all these concessions that have been made. Look, Stephen Colbert getting pulled off the air, they say it was for financial reasons. Let's be real. That show was announced canceled right after the new chairman of that network met with the FCC for regulatory approval of his deal. You had so many instances where 60 Minutes employees came out and said, like, we felt like this program is not what it was in terms of editorial independence. Clearly, all of that is sending a signal to the White House that this is not the institution that it was. It's more friendly to you.